Hello everyone and welcome back to another politics video where today we've got some breaking news. Morgan McSweeney, Chief of Staff for Keir Starmer, has resigned over the scandal to do with Peter Mandelson and his connections to Jeffrey Epstein. This is huge. For those of you who don't know, Morgan McSweeney has essentially been Keir Starmer's right hand in politics and was basically the reason why he came to power in the first place. He was also a protege of, surprise, surprise, Peter Mandelson, and was the one who suggested that Peter Mandelson be hired as US ambassador in the first place. So let me make this very clear. It is 100% correct for him to resign. Not only that, I think that he has been a drain on the Labour Party for some time. I think the fact that he's been Labour's Chief of Staff and Starmer's Chief of Staff at number 10, and he's advised things like hiring Peter Mandelson, who, by the way, not only was obviously close friends with Jeffrey Epstein, but among other things, also advised money interests in how to avoid Labour's bankers' bonuses tax during the 2008 financial crisis. Mandelson had to go, and McSweeney, who appointed him, or suggested his appointment, I should say, had to go as well. But I think this goes deeper than just that. Quite frankly, I think Starmer also has to go over this. This is one of those things where you can try and cut out as many people who did it as you want. At the end of the day, the buck stops with the leader. The buck stops with the head of the party, Keir Starmer. He could have chosen not to take the advice that Morgan McSweeney gave, but he decided not to. But the reason why this is so significant is, as I say, McSweeney was core to the Starmer project. In June 2024, the New Statesman, who have a lot of connections to the Labour Party, ranked McSweeney first on a list of most influential people shaping left-wing politics in the UK, having described him as Starmer's most trusted aide. The Times stated that nobody without elected office wields as much power in British politics as McSweeney. And what's interesting about him is we have very little footage of the guy. This footage that I'm playing now is some of the only footage that we have of Morgan McSweeney. He was also a director of Labour Together, the group within Labour, whose job it was to basically try and work out a strategy to remove Jeremy Corbyn from the party leadership. Through polling Labour membership, he determined it would be possible to peel away the soft-left younger idealists of Labour from Corbyn's base, eventually picking Keir Starmer as a suitable figure to replace Corbyn as leader. He composed a 3-year plan for Starmer to become Prime Minister after taking control of the party, which involved first performing immediate CPR to reform the party's ranks, which included removing Corbyn and Scottish Labour leader Richard Leonard, and excluding them from future leadership contests. Then secondly, becoming an effective opposition in Parliament by directly attacking the Conservatives on their own failures, and lastly, winning power by outwitting the Conservatives on crime defence and the economy, basically replaying the New Labour strategy of the 90s. So this guy was literally at the core of Starmer's inner circle. The entire Starmer political project, the entire way he came to power, it was all planned out by this guy. And now he's gone. This guy was essentially the man behind the curtain. He was the one who was, in many ways, probably influencing Starmer and a lot of the decisions on policy. In fact, we know for a fact as well that his close ally, Peter Mandelson, was advising on cabinet reshuffles. This goes deeper than just any one man. It is a fundamental problem within Labour as it currently exists, is that you've got all these people working behind the scenes with their own interests, who are only interested in that and are only interested in power for power's sake. Starmer was once described by an anonymous aide as not driving the train. He thinks he's driving the train, but we've sat him in front of the driverless DLR. McSweeney was the real power behind the throne, if you like, to Keir Starmer, and now that he's gone, it makes Keir Starmer even more vulnerable, and I would not be surprised if he is ousted by the May local elections. The question I have, I say all this to pretense something I'm about to say, which is, I am very happy that McSweeney is gone. I'm very happy that he resigned. I'm very happy that Mandelson was stripped from the Lords and kicked out of his position as US ambassador. All of that is objectively good. But A, it doesn't save Keir Starmer. B, I will say, the fact that this is having more consequence to the UK, which don't get me wrong, we were definitely involved in the Epstein files as well, no mistake of that, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Peter Mandelson, like we mentioned, and so on and so forth, Nick Candy, who is now the Treasurer of Reform UK, I believe. It goes on and on and on. Nigel Farage and like his associations with Steve Bannon. I could go on for a while. But the fact that this is having more cut through in UK politics than US politics, when the US president is in the files thousands and thousands and thousands of times, cannot be understated. And I guess the one thing that it gives me pause for thought on and kind of makes me thankful for is that there are at least still some guardrails against our politicians. Whatever you want to say about the UK, it's a very divided place, a very broken country in many ways. There are at the very least some things where we draw a line on, whereas in America it seems those no longer exist. So I'm at least glad for that. But yeah, otherwise I think, this was the right decision, but it's not enough, realistically. This is just a part of a larger symptom. That is, that Labour isn't truly run with the people's interests anymore. It is run with the interests of a group of people whose sole goal was power for power's sake. And I mean, look where it's got them. They're on the lowest polling ratings on record for any Prime Minister. It's not going well, and I think the only way that Labour can even have a chance of winning the next election, or at least coming close to that, would be to basically rebuild from the ground up. But how long they have to do that, and whether they'll be willing to do that, and who will replace Starmer, is another thing entirely. But that's all I've got to say about this. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you later.